Welcome to Short Comic Introduction. Today we have again a double. I want to talk about two comics by Chris Hazelton, and the two comics in question are Gun Mage and Misfile. Before I start, one thing I should mention: the comics and the name Chris Hazelton. I never knew about him until I found him per accident at Kickstarter when he started his campaign for Gun Mage, and the first time I saw him was when I saw this picture on the Kickstarter campaign pages. And the part I was interested in at that time was, let's say it this way, I got interested in Gun Mage because, let's face it, he said it was a combination between steampunk, fantasy, and western. And even if I'm not a fantasy guy, more science fiction guy, steampunk, every time when I see something with steampunk, I have to check it out. And that's why I backed this campaign for Gun Mage. And to be honest, I never regretted it, and I kind of really like this one. What's about? Gun Mage officially started in August 2013. Officially, I mean the first page was uploaded in August 2013, and the updates are Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The story is, again, it's kind of a simple story. It's about Kylie, who is on a run from a very powerful organization called The Circle, and she has something in her possession that can change the balance of power in their world. And I have to say, I really like the story. I like the characters, beginning from Kylie to Gwen to Zeitz. Even the one of the, let's say, kind of villains, Renault, who is introduced even in very early in the first book, in the first chapters. Every of the characters, they're really greatly written, and what I really like about them is every one of these characters has its own personality and personal story, meaning you have this bigger roster of characters, but not a single character. Again, we have here a story where not a single character is a copy of another one, meaning even if you started, you directly see that every character is different. Not also part has with the art to do with the art style, but a little bit later about that. The way the story is told is also something I really like in this way. So we have this mixture between more comedy parts, lighthearted parts, and then there are these darker flashback parts in there. And at the moment when this video goes up, we also had some very, very dark things happen to some of the, let's say, to the main characters in some way. And like I said, the way the story is changing over the time, and that they have these, let's say, they have wins, they have losses, and everything everything just because of one simple thing is really, like I said, it's really great told. And the world, the way the world is created is also something I really like. Normally when you start or when you have a story where you try to combine many different parts, and in this case we have the steampunk, we have the fantasy, and we have the western part. I really like that Chris takes his time to really integrate all of these parts, meaning we not have only one major part of these themes and then some small let's say just mention about like there was a fantasy race or something like that, or there's this little bit magic. He takes his time. We have parts where we always concentrate on the steampunk part, where we see these typical steampunk machines, these big motors and something like that, and then we have these. Then there are fantasy magic parts with some, like I said, fantasy creatures you normally don't find, and then you have these towns, these really Western-like, and then also these let's say sometimes Western-like shootouts in some cases. Definitely, I like how he's combining everything, and everything goes hand in hand, and it's not just there to sell the story, I will say. It's really the story takes place there, and it works into another, and yeah, like I said, I definitely like how this the story is going on. Even the designs of all the characters is amazing, what I have to say. I like the circle especially, all with their masks and parts put on there, even these when they have these kind of gas masks fully covering their faces. And like I said, he hasn't done an amazing job with all of these this world. Again, back to the story. Yeah, the story, like I said, starts when it begins. It looks like it's something like a more comedy part with a darker undertone. Let's say it that way, because through some very early on we get to know Kylie a little bit more about what happened in the past, why she's on the run, but still we don't know why she's hunted, and this is something that slowly comes over the time of this of the story. And like I said, he doesn't throw everything at once at us, and builds the story slowly to the part where we are now. And yeah, I think this is one part that I think some people may not really like, because I know when there's a lot of action in there, but to come to these to the action sequences that are also done very competent in my eyes, there are sometimes very calm and slow parts in there, where only the people are talking about, and we get a little bit more about the world, about the past of some of the characters, especially when we meet one of the sisters of Gwen. So yeah, definitely, I would say this is definitely a recommendation for people who like steampunk, or let's say at least the combination between steampunk and western. Definitely one I'm really curious how it will go on, and definitely one I would recommend people start reading in some cases, even if you're just looking for a time waster. Like I said, this is not a comic. You can read the comic in a go, just very just how it is. But there are some parts where you can think a little bit about why the characters react that way. So I think it's a really good comic for a broader audience, for different kind of readers. So yeah, definitely one I would check out. If you have the chance, I will leave the link down. As always, I will leave the link down below. The art is interesting, and I will talk a little bit now before I go to Misfile, but we'll take that a little bit before, because the art in Six Gun Mage and Misfile are nearly identical. The designs are different, but the art, the way they are drawn, are very similar. Yeah, it's the same artist, so you can expect that in many cases. I would say or let's say it this way. Chris has a very interesting art to draw. When you first see his drawings, you think he's just drawing your typical or standard black and white comic style. But I would say that's not quite right. And it would be sad just to lower the standard to that, because like I said, he has a very interesting way to draw. I just show you 2 pages to get what I mean. You have sometimes the way he draws the pages this way, just the characters, very simple background or no background, and then you have something like, let's take a look, like these pages where a lot is going on. You have your typical speed lines, but also more details. And if you look at the gun, you see, even if the characters don't look detailed at the first, but the gun looks interestingly detailed. Or let's take a look at the chapter. Let's just take a look. Yeah, but here I have something like I said about the designs of the circle. Yeah. So yeah, you see, he's he. Or let's say it this way. What he does really good is to focus you on the real important parts. He draws most of the part. What he draws simple are the parts that are just let's say background or just native. That's not the interesting part at what you have to look. Let's say you have 2 characters discussing something, and what the characters are discussing is the main focus. You will see that the characters are what are the detailed part of these drawings, and the background is just plain, or there is no background in these cases. If we take Misfile as an example, there are many racing scenes at the beginning of the comic, and he draws the cars and the tracks very detailed, and because we have to focus on these we want to focus on the cars. When they're doing something with the cars, we want to focus on these cars. The cars are the main part at this time, where the characters are speaking with, where they're interacting with. Here, something like if there is a shootout, mostly he's constant. You find more detailed work on the guns, or where the effects are going by. Like, let's say they're firing at the bomb, then the bomb is here the more detailed part, like the explosion that works around. So yeah, definitely his art is interesting and great done in this case, that he always tries to get the attention of the reader to what he wants to show us, and that works, like I said, that works really great. Every time, every new page, when you start reading it, you immediately see what's important in this case, and it's definitely something that's really great done. Haven't seen it this way before. I know a lot of black and white comics, and mostly you have too much or too little detail in some cases. So, but never these parts where you directly focus on what's important on these pages. So, definitely an interesting art style, and definitely a recommendation to check out if you're interested in these kinds of stories. That brings us to his second comic, Misfile. This is also a comic that's already very old in some cases, or very long running. When I say this, I mean it. This comic started in 2004 and updates at the moment every weekday between Monday and Friday. It means you get normally you get 5 updates a week. There's a lot you can, if you never have heard of it, never read it, there's a lot you can go check up. It's a really massive comic. I would say, going from the pages alone, I think it has to be this. I'm not sure. I haven't counted it, but I think it's the second massive after Freefall in my eyes. But like I said, these two, they are. I think they're the biggest ones I have looked at in this small video series. Misfile has also something special at it. First, I wasn't interested in this one, and I only checked it out because the link was on the on the page on the project page side from his 6th Gun Mage Kickstarter project. And it was one of the few where I really read it in one go. Okay, not in one go entirely. That's not possible without sleeping. But yeah, I tried to read it in nearly as quick as possible. And in some way, this comic was also one of the reasons why I was, or let's say it's partially the reason why I have chosen to talk in my videos about webcomics, and because there's a lot to talk about that one. I don't want to go too deep into it because like I said, I try to keep the spoilers at a minimum with my videos, but I would highly recommend it from the story point just from the main 2 characters. There are some things I have to say, but let's start with what's it all about. The story is interesting in many cases because. Let's say it this way. The story goes this way. One morning, everything has changed for Ash Upton and Emily MacArthur because Rumiciel, an angel at the Celestial Filing Depot, caused an universal filing error, and through that, Emily lost 2 years of her life, and Ash is swapped his sexes completely. So, meaning he wakes up as a girl, and Emily is 2 years younger, or lost 2 years of her life totally. But yeah, that's when you hear this story, the first things you think, God, it's again a swap story, and normally this was the first reason why I first thought I'm not that interested in it, because mostly when you have these gender swap stories, they go a little bit too extreme, meaning in most cases when you read them, they're going the full comedy route, but try to stay away, as far away from a very serious look at that. Not that this comic takes this on a whole serious note. What I really love about Misfile in this case is we have this gender bender part in it, but it's not full comedy. The way Chris tries to write it is the way how someone could feel if he thinks he's in the wrong, or he feels in the wrong body, and that's something I think he has really done great. Also, I think in combination with the part of growing up, because over the whole years of this comic, we see how these 2 characters really grow in many ways. Not only does Ash see Ash when we first meet Ash, he's more this kind of character. He's more very stubborn. He's more this. this rebel-like character. He wants to be alone. He doesn't want to have friends. In some cases, he has more of these enemies. His whole life is centering around his cars and his racing over the old road. And I think this is really done great in many ways. When you see him working at his car, and the races himself, when he speaks about it, and he's totally focused on this one. And after a while with Emily, because the way this whole filing error works, only the people who are affected by this know what happened. Because Rumsil is also the character who brings them together and says what happened to them. But the whole world is blissfully unaware what happened. They always see how these characters were from the standpoint from how the misfile happened, meaning they all think Ash was always a girl and Emily never had these 2 years where she studied. I like how these two characters grow closer. And Emily, on the other hand, I like how she started as someone who always just focused on learning, focused to show her mother how good she is in this one, and how how her life also turns totally up and down, because she sees what went wrong with this one and why she tried to or let's say how manipulative sometimes your parents can get in some cases. It's like I said, it's a very interesting look at these and at these parts, and he's done that really great. That's one reason I would recommend reading this story, just from these standpoints alone. Just over this course of the last years, it's a very interesting read, and definitely would recommend checking this one out just for this one alone. But when I say I would recommend the story, there are parts, and this really breaks my heart. Just to get this out of the way, I'm really sad to say this. I'm starting to lose a little bit interest in this comic, and before someone says, yeah, okay, normally you lose interest if you never were, when you never were really into this comic, or if you never seen something like that, I just want to show you something. This is a drawing Chris did for me, and yes, this was a commission work. I wanted a drawing of our main two characters with their cars. I really like this story. I like these characters, and but over the past few months, or would say the last year, we are now talking about the real year. I have the feeling the story isn't gripping me anymore like it was at the beginning. This has for different reasons. The first part is I have somehow the feeling that he just wants to concentrate in the last year of the comic, and he already said that this will be the last in-year comic, so he's starting to write the end for it. He only focuses on Ash and Emily. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and really I want to know how it ends for these two characters in many different ways. If you have read it, you know what I mean. But on the side, I think he lost us because there are so many unanswered questions, and I have the fear that we never see a solution for them. I hope it's not that part, but there are so many parts. We had so many villain-like characters there that just appeared. We have characters who appeared and never came back. They just disappeared in so many ways. We have We had some parts about the Celestial Filing Depot. We never heard of that for so long. What's happened there? Nothing really. We don't know if Rumziel has some way to get there. It just everything vanished in some kind. I would love to see more about Ash's mother in some way. She was there, and there was some small parts with her, but she nearly vanished. I don't know why, because there were still great possibilities with her. His father isn't used that often anymore, and also that's the kind of thing I'm really sad. I know it's part of his growing up story, but I miss the racing sequences that he drew. They were I have to say, they were fantastic. That's something I really loved about the start of the comic. I really missed them, and also it's a thing I have to say a little bit I miss when something happens. I miss the weight of these parts. Sometimes I think that just everything is there just to connect something. Just a small example, and I know I will spoil here something, but I think it was just, it was there, but nothing really happened in this case. The old road was in danger to be place for a big project that I wanted to build a residence there, and they tried to stop this, and it kind of was there, and then there was a solution, but I never had this feeling that there was really something on stakes here, and that made me kind of sad. Yes, we know that this one was a really big part of the youth there, but like I said, it never had this feeling of dread that there was something to be lost. It just, yes, they feared it, but just then it was gone. It was everything was good after just some pages, and that's really, it makes me sad to say this, and like I said, at this moment of the comic, I'm still reading it, and I won't stop reading it. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I want to know what happens with Ash and Emily, but the fire I had at first for this comic is a little bit dimmer. It's really dimmed out for some time now, because I'm not sure what happened with everything around these two. It's just let's say it went to a standard kind of slice of life comic without anything really happening, and that's something I would say, if you hadn't put in something like angels and filing in the Celestial Filing Depot, and then I would have said yes, it's okay, but with that in mind, there's just something it's missing. Just don't get me wrong. Like I said, it's just a personal opinion. So I hope the people who watch this video and think, he's just talking about nonsense or something. If you like it, don't get me wrong. I still like this comic. It's just something I at the moment I don't know what to get out of it. I really want to like this comic until the end, but at the moment it's just hard for me to get the same feeling since that I had when I first started reading this comic. Again, just my opinion, and I hope I didn't offend someone, and I hope that I didn't offend Chris for what I said in this case. Like I said, he does a great job, and I really like Six Gun Mage, and I really loved Misfile at first. At the moment, it's just, like I said, it's just another comic I read why, because I want to know how it ends, but it's not that I don't have this fire that I had at first for it, and that's something that saddens me a little bit. But maybe I'm totally wrong, and everything will be covered until the end. And yeah, then I will totally say that this, what I just said, was everything. Then everything is okay, and it's just a small dump in the road, and nothing really big. And maybe I will love the ending. I don't know. It's still some time to go, and at the moment it's just a small down phase. Let's see where it goes. Like I said, I'm still curious how it will end, and I definitely look forward to it. But I just had to say this, that there are just parts that I'm just missing. I just want to know these things. It just breaks my heart not to know when they were there. They made this all really interesting for me, and yeah, that's the only reason I said these things. So yeah, don't want to talk anything bad. There are still interesting comics I would recommend checking out, and as always, I will leave the links down below. And if you're interested, he has an own Patreon account. I will leave the link also down below. And yeah, as always, if you like the art, if you like the comics themselves, check them out and leave comments behind. Vote, tip everything, or go to Patreon and support the artists. So again, thanks for watching, and goodbye.